In the military, you're given a uniform and instructed on how to do things and when to do them. But what happens when the cadence fades and you're no longer wearing that uniform? I'm KP, and I started this podcast to fill that silence with direction and to provide overall support for my beloved military family. Welcome to the Morning Formation. This episode is brought to you by Act Now Education. Thank you for joining us today, folks. We have a veteran who now serves as a director of recruitment and veteran outreach for an executive company that employs over 60% military veterans who are responsible for the protection of several thousand clients, including over 90 of the world's most prominent families and at-risk individuals. On the show today, we have retired Army First Sergeant Nick Duchene from Gavin DeBecker and Associates, based out of Los Angeles, California. What's most interesting about Nick is his military career. He once led a high-risk reconnaissance and security mission, which included a raid in Iraq that liberated 8 hostages. We'll dive into his military career as well as his fascinating current position with Gavin DeBecker and Associates. Nick, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So let's get things started and let's learn a little bit more about you and who you are. Nick, where are you from and what was your upbringing like?
Yeah, so I am born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. And so grew up, both my parents worked, had a challenging time raising twin boys. And so I have a twin as well. And so someone to hang out with, which was really cool, who looked like me. And we kind of shared the same interest. So, a lot of our time was spent outside as any kid during that day, or during that time frame, we didn't have computers. We didn't have internet. And so you were kind of forced to be outside, and you really only spent time inside when you were grounded. And so, my family, we grew up doing a lot of vacations. So a lot of times at Disneyland. I had an uncle who had a boat. So we did a lot of boating, water skiing, and so on. And then we had dirt bikes. And so my dad and my uncle would take us out there and do a little dirt bike riding and so on. So it was fun. It was challenging. I don't want to say challenging. It was fun as a kid during that time frame.
Yeah, it sounds like your brother and you were both sort of in competition, but in a good sense of helping each other level yourselves up, I guess.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And at what point did you decide to serve in the United States Army, and why did you do that?
So I decided to join the Army when I was in high school, and I'd probably say it was my sophomore year. And so I really enjoyed or wanted to do something obviously outside, something adventurous, and then something that had a sense of purpose. I knew that what I didn't want to do was sit behind a desk. And so with that in mind, I started looking at the military. And actually what drew me to the military during that time frame was movies. And so you had Heartbreak Ridge came out. You had Top Gun, which was probably huge for the Navy recruiters who were all happy with that one. And so they kind of like glorified the military, if you will. And I was just like, wow, this is something that I want to do. And so when I turned 17, my junior year, I started looking at all the different services. And so I gave everyone kind of an equal shot of what it is that they had to offer. And then Marines and Army were the two. My brother joined the Marines. And so when I went in there and I spoke with the Marine recruiter, all great. And the Marines are great, nothing to take away from them at all. But the only thing they had to sell was being a Marine. And that was it. No guaranteed jobs, no nothing. You're just, at the end of the day, you're a Marine. And I get that. And for some, it works for them. Along with the what they have in there, the pull-up bar. So the first time you go in there, you got to do pull-ups before you talk to them, and it was crazy. But either way, and then finally, I spoke with an Army recruiter, and so with that, he showed me some videos, and I think that's really what sold me as being a cavalry scout, and he gave me a guaranteed job. And so as long as I met the requirements, I passed everything, the Army would guarantee me that specific job. And so I found that very interesting. And then with that, they also, they hype you up when you're down in MEPS, they call you like soldier or hero, and you feel really good about yourself. And so then I also qualified for airborne, and I was like, yeah, I want to go airborne.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm scared of heights,
Right.
but I'm not thinking about that at the time. I'm just thinking like, man, I'm gonna be airborne. That's awesome. Qualified for some more college money, the Montgomery GI Bill on top of all of that. So it was really good. So I joined at 17. I remember the recruiter coming to my house and my parents, signing the paperwork and all of that. They were fine with it. They, I think, felt that the military was, something that they would be proud to have their sons do. And so I did that. And then I remember the rest of my junior and senior year, my friends were still trying to figure out what it is they wanted to do. They were trying to figure out, am I going to go in the workforce? Am I going to go to college? Meanwhile, I was like, I already knew what I was going to do. And so when it came to career days, and I really didn't pay attention to it. It had no meaning to me whatsoever when people were mentioning, hey, you need a resume. Hey, you don't need one for the military. You just need to score on the ASVAB test and you're good to go. So it was great. I remember I left home, July 4th.
What year
July
was that?
5th, 1991.
91.
Recruiter came to my house, picked me up, drove me to the airport, got on the plane, and then I arrived at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And so I spent 16 weeks there going through OSET, one station unit trainings, basic and AIT, all condensed into one. I finished that up. Great experience. I loved it. Did it during the dead of summer, which was miserable in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, I went straight to Airborne School. So again, it just solidified the fact that I was still scared of heights, but I did it anyways. It was fun. It was I spent 4 weeks there. I spent a 0 week. So I had to show up there, and they were filled. And so I spent a week doing like what's it called?
Details.
You got it.
Yeah.
Not packing chutes, but helping to load chutes. Anything that a private does.
Right.
This was a guy that was doing it. I remember I turned 18 there, and I was on CQ. And so they were like, how do you like it here? And I was like, it's great. It's my birthday. So, and then after that, I went to, once I graduated jump school, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. Shocker. I got there and I was like, we don't jump out of airplanes here? And so I just felt that it was weird that the Army had sent me to a location where I was actually on Bradley's. And so I was at a heavy unit. And so it took a little bit of, of learning and getting used to, but I did that. And it wasn't until, I want to say 15 years later when I got to the 82nd. And so 15 years, definitely, I forgot everything about Airborne School.
Wow.
So it was, I remember I had to go through BAR, which is a basic airborne refresher. And I remember I was a platoon sergeant at the time there. I had to get lessons. I had to learn, like all over again. Someone had to come in and actually teach me how to do it before I went in front of these other professionals to make sure that I could rig my ruck and I knew what a PLF was and how to do all that stuff. And so it was, I won't say it was a steep learning curve, but it was learning all over again. And so, yeah, I know it was a long answer, but yeah.
No, it sounds like quite an intriguing military career, and I can identify with what you're saying with being afraid of heights, because I'm also afraid of heights, but I signed up for air assault when I was at Schofield in Hawaii, and if you're afraid of heights, you shouldn't put a rope on you and walk backwards down the side of a building. So I understand what you're saying with that. Airborne, I just feel like you plug your nose and just jump out with your eyes closed. So that's something I wish I would have tackled as well, was Airborne School. And so
yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's just having the confidence in your equipment,
Yeah.
And it's same thing. I never did air assault only because, again, I'm scared of heights. I'm not going to volunteer for any of that stuff, not unless they tell me that I have to do it. But just having the faith that, one, that you're doing the right thing, that rope is strong enough to hold you going down. And then for me, that parachute is going to open up, and knowing, how to use the reserve if need be.
Yeah.
So,
you know what I think that underlines? That underlines your natural challenging of your fears. I mean, even signing up for the military and leaving home at 17 years old is no easy task in itself. Most people don't even leave home till their mid-20s or so. And so for you to, sign up for the military on your own, did you have any family influence at all? Like anyone else in the military?
Not that I can remember.
Yeah.
No, I didn't have like a long lineage of individuals who served or anything like that. I think my dad's uncle served in the Navy, but I mean, other than that, no.
So you guys went to the deep. You and your brother went into the deep end and just signed up for something that you really had no idea what you were doing, and facing your fear, I guess, of growing up, leaving home, but then also you signed up for Airborne School on top of that with your fear of knowing that that heights wasn't one of your favorite things, and that says a lot about your character naturally. And I wanted to ask you, would you mind describing a time to us when you were forced to take a steep learning curve in leadership, and what was your outcome on that?
Yeah, I'll give you two examples. So I think the first one, I would say that every NCO has this experience, and that is that transition from enlisted to NCO. And so for me, I had a lot of friends, and then when you make the that NCO rank, corporal or sergeant, now all of a sudden your decision making factor is all based on the mission and success of that mission. And there are times, and I remember I was in Fort Irwin back in the mid '90s, and I had to put my buddies on KP. I'm sure a lot of people don't know what KP is back then, but yeah, they were doing dishes. They were going out there to the mess and helping out, and you feel bad about it, but it's something that has to be done. And so the reason why you do it is because of the mission. And so there are certain things that you do. The second thing I would say would be that transition from military leadership, which is direct, it's in your face, it's strong, I love it, to civilian leadership. And then now it's much different. So now you're dealing with a kinder, gentler, softer individual who has had no leadership experience, has never been to any formal schooling other than what they see on TV or maybe a class or two. But you have to understand that those civilians, you need them to work the next day. So you can't go in there all strong and and be very directive. You have to utilize more of a participative style of leadership, if you will. They need to gain buy-in to what it is that the intent of what the mission is, compared to the military side. You don't like what I'm saying, you're still going to show up the next day. I mean, you have feelings get hurt. That's what I love about the military. Feelings get hurt all the time, but you get over it.
Oh, yeah.
There is no hard feelings, or people don't come back the next day saying, "Oh, that guy's an a-hole" or whatever. No, that's just the way that it is, and I think that's why the military works so well. But in the civilian side, you yell at somebody, or tell them what to do. You're standing in front of HR after that, or potentially losing your job. So you have to be the learning curve on the civilian side is definitely way different. But let me add on to that. The things that are the same for both military and civilian is the purpose, direction, and motivation. So as long as you're providing that, you could get it. It's just how you apply it.
Right. And I was on Clubhouse the other day, and I found it really interesting when there was a sergeant major on there that was talking, and he's into real estate as part of one of his civilian, I guess, jobs now. Is he does several different things, but one of them is real estate, and he trains real estate agents. And what I found quite interesting was how he spoke about a lot of the tactics that he used in recruiting. Those soft skills that he used in recruiting are the same type of skills that he uses today on the civilian side to train real estate agents. And that's something that I just didn't think about, that those soft skills, I guess is kind of what you're talking about, is also being used on the civilian side to train people who've never been in the military. And I find that quite fascinating. And many times when you watch movies and whatnot, you see those hard skills in the military. And I agree. I love that side of the military where nothing is really personal.
Yeah.
It's all about the mission, and it's all about having care and passion about the mission and your people. All the other stuff, no matter what's said during that point, is not personal to anyone. But on the civilian side, people take it personal. And so I understand what you're saying, that is a huge challenge in itself. Now, how did the military help you construct a better understanding of team building that you still use today with your current position?
So the military from day one instills team building. So when you get to basic training, you're not an individual. It doesn't matter if you go to whatever branch that it is. You're with a group of people. You're with a platoon. And so your success and accomplishments are based off of that platoon. And so it's not based off that individual. And so team building is not based on MOS. It's not based on rank. It's not based on any of that. And so it's based about, obviously working together and then trying to figure out how do you build that team. In the military, it's easy for certain things. I'll give you an example is, knowing you're only as strong as your weakest link is, what they say. So you take a road march, for example, it's easier to build a team by taking your weakest link and putting that individual at the front of the formation, when you're walking. It's easier to motivate him or her to push harder to accomplish it, and everyone's cheering them on or whatever it is, compared to now you take that person and they're at the back of the formation. And now your whole team building and leadership thing is now it's gone. So now you're telling a person, hey, hurry up, catch up, you're slowing us down. And so you have to look at it from that point as well. So not only are you're using leadership there by putting them up front, but you're also building a team that's there. And that individual feels more part of that team when he or she is up front compared to in the back. So there is that inclusion that's in there. You have to look at, and the military does it as well too when it comes to team building, is your METAL task, your mission essential task list. At a level, every individual or every squad, company, or whatever has a list of things that need to be accomplished that supports the higher mission. And when you complete yours as a team, you feel motivated about it. You're just like, wow, okay, we did this. And sometimes you fail, but you fail as a team. You don't fail as an individual, which is good. Because I would say that failure probably is worse if you just did it by yourself compared to if you did it as a team. Because you still have a support group that's there that understands why you failed, how you can improve to get better, compared to you trying to rationalize it by yourself. And then team building, it drives competition. That's what I love about it. It drives competition. It makes people want to do better. If you ever notice, remember back in the days when we do PT, I got it. Motivation is there. You're doing it. Individuals they're performing. They're doing what they have to do. Push-ups, sit-ups, 2-mile run is typically what the Army does. You do it every day. But all of a sudden now you take a day and you add a sporting event that's in there. Now all of a sudden you have individuals who are pushing harder because, they want to win. They want to have success at the end of the day. And so they're going to, strive a lot harder than push-ups, sit-ups, 2-mile run, So yeah, that's kind of like how it's worked. And I use that same thing within the civilian side, is building that team and, getting individuals to want to succeed, have the buy-in, and seeing that there is, winning at whatever that is, whatever your career field is, there's always a win on something. For me, it's recruiting. It's like, hey, we have a large academy. That's a win. Everyone did their part to achieve a higher mission.
Right. Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. It shows a lot of years of experience in leadership that you have under your belt. And before we jump into talking specifically about your current position and Gavin DeBecker and Associates, I want to know, are you okay with talking about the raid that I mentioned at the beginning of the show a little bit about, not in great detail, but
yeah, I could go into some detail.
Yeah, would you mind just describing like what happened during that raid and what was the outcome?
So we were on a different mission set when we were in Iraq, and so we weren't a landowning company. We how to explain this? So basically, air assault. We took a helicopter in everywhere we went, and our mission, we had a target package of everything that we were supposed to do. So find individuals, capture them, and then we'd pull out. And then once we would pull out, then we had other groups that were there, ODA or whatever. They'd wait for them to get on the phone, talk, and then they would go back in and capture individuals. So that particular one, we're in the breadbasket area. So I remember landing. We were on a CH-47, and as soon as we landed, you could just hear rounds going off. All right, so there we go. So we have a whole battalion of individuals going into one area, and we were there for one purpose and one purpose only: find people, to get them. We had and so with that, I remember thinking to myself, man, this bird's got to get up. It's got to get up. I don't want to be around an airplane. I don't want to be around helicopter when rounds start coming in. That's the last thing I want. Bird takes off, and immediately again rounds start coming in, and our commanding officer, actually, him and his RTO actually plucked a guy out of a ditch who was next to them. So they took a knee. Guy was there. The RTO was this huge guy, and he just reached down, pulled this guy up, and they started, asking him questions, and find out that hey, they this area they're known for taking middle-aged males, ma'ams. And then they would try to bargain with individuals to pay money, ransom for them. So that night, I remember we were going, my platoon, we split into two. So my lieutenant took half the group. He was up top on the road, checking out some areas. And for me, I had our Bravo section, and we went down towards, moving towards the Tigers. And so as we start to get down, I noticed that there's a little bit of smoke coming out of a little fire that someone had. So I knew that individuals had been in there. And so we immediately pull security on that area. And as I start to move forward, I noticed there's a 50-gallon drum that's sitting at the bottom, a little shelf that kind of goes down. And I was like, wow, that's weird. That's probably not should be here. And so you get the red lens out. You're looking at it, making sure there's no wires or anything like that. And so we cleared it, we move it out of there, and as soon as I lift up the barrel and I hand it off to one of my section sergeants, I see a door, and I'm just in awe, and I'm like, a door? Like, why would a door be here? And so there was a very tiny hole in that door, and so I remember I peeked my eye through there, and there was another eye looking back at me. And so naturally, I immediately start yelling, get back, I'll shoot, get back. And then everyone else who's above us, they're actually standing on what they had dug into the ground. And so the ground up top is actually the roof. So it's kind of like a bunker. And so I'm trying to get my interpreter to come up there so I can, find out some information on who these individuals are. And then they tell us that they had been captured for about 45 days. And they were being ransomed in order for families to pay, the insurgents in that area. And so it took a little time of us talking to them. We didn't breach the door right away. We had to go over a lot of, hey, this is what's going to happen. Make sure that when we come in, hands are up, we can see them. And so we finally got through the door and we pulled them out. And, some of these individuals were, you could tell, were dehydrated. They had a hard time moving. And so we got them out, and we took them to a house that we had commandeered, if you will. And that was kind of our AO that we worked out of. And then eventually they were flown out of the area, and then another group of individuals, took them and, made sure, asked them questions, fed them, obviously, and make sure they were good to go. But yeah, it was very, very interesting.
Wow, that's quite amazing, man, that boots on the ground, and here you were going into the unknown, into a bunker. And I don't know what I would do if I saw an eye looking back at me. First thing is damn, like that's, I haven't been to Iraq. I know that when you leave the wire, it's just 300, 360 all around. You just don't know what's going to happen when things do kick off. It's like a sucker punch. You never expect it. Never happens when you expect it to happen. At least that's from my experience.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the enemy gets a vote too. And so they're participating in that battle. So they also get to decide, when and where, they want to kick off, their ambush or their firefight or whatever. So it's just being one, mentally strong, doing all the training which the military gives you, and then just having that intestinal fortitude to know that, hey, you know what, when they fight, I'm going to fight back, except for my fight's going to be 10 times worse than what they're giving out. So,
Wow. Yeah. I remember the first IED I ever ran over. It was the first words out of my mouth was, "What was that?" And I knew what it was. It just caught me off guard. Was like, mind was going 1,000 miles a minute. And yeah, that's you kind of took me back there for a minute when you were telling me your story in itself. And I want to jump over to your transition out of the military that happened in 2011. Can you explain to us what that was like?
yeah, it was quite frankly nerve-wracking. And so when you spend 20 years in an organization, that's your mindset, is that organization. Everything you know, your verbiage, your attire. I remember, looking at myself when I was getting ready to retire, and I was like, what clothes do I have here? I got a lot of unit T-shirts and shorts. That's who I am. And so it was. I had to do a lot of thinking before I got out. With the military, one good thing is everything is set up for you. And so that's from A to Z. So you're never by yourself. The military guides you no matter what school it is, the transition from one installation to the next installation. It's there. You have someone to catch and guide you through the steps. On the civilian world, you have yourself. Like, that is it. And so you have to have that motivation and drive to say, hey, okay, I need to get this done. No one is going to do it except for me. So now, quite literally, your success is based on yourself. And so I started looking at, different jobs that were out there. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I looked at, I remember I was going to do junior ROTC. And so I applied for that. I did an interview with a lieutenant colonel, and everything was great with that. So that was an option. I looked at contracting, and so that was pretty easy as well. I signed up for to get some information. You have a guy reach out to me. Got it. I can go that route. And then my brother, who works for Gavin DeBecker, he's at the time was a regional manager. And so he said, hey, why don't you consider us? And so I did a little looking into it, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, if that's what I wanted. I never really looked at security. Like, I was just like, okay, But when I saw it, it gave me I wasn't behind a desk all the time. There was times, obviously, where you're behind a desk, but it gave me the opportunity to be outside, and I really wanted that still in my life, and not be, again, behind a desk. And then when I looked at it, I noticed that there was a lot of veterans who were in the organization. And so the fact of being with like-minded individuals also drew me to that as well. And so it was people that I could relate to, who had the same common interests, who did the same common things. Military, not necessarily MOS, but the discipline and all that was still there. And so I decided to go that route. And then the biggest thing was checking your ego at the door when you start at that organization. 20 years as a first sergeant, I had a staff. I had people who did things for me. When I got to Gavin DeBecker, like it was me. Like, I got to remember, I got to pull up Word. How do I do this again? What am I writing out here? And so it's just understanding that, what I did in the past is the past. It's where I am now and who I am now. And I'll take those leadership traits and what made me successful in the past, and I'm going to apply those to this position and continue to excel. So, yeah, long story, I know, but transitioning out it's difficult.
Yeah, it sounds like camaraderie and the reciprocity of what Gavin DeBecker and Associates was offering was something that was a big factor for you. So were there any other important factors that you were considering while transitioning?
Yeah, a lot of factors, when it comes to region, where I want to be at, what's going to be best for my family, schooling. And so you have to look at all of those as well. Housing market, cost of living in certain areas. Obviously I'm in California. California's cost of living is extremely high. Anything you buy here is more expensive. It's like a competition than any other state. We got gas, we charge more than any other state. Yep. You want a gallon of milk, we charge more than any other state. And so it's there. So it's I would tell individuals you have to be proactive when you get out. There are a lot of resources that are out there that can kind of help you with your transition, and don't pay for stuff. That's the biggest thing. There's so many companies that are out there that are all about, what can I get from that veteran who's transitioning out right now? He'll pay me, and I'll do his resume. Okay, well, you know what? I don't want to sit here and plug anyone, but Hiring Heroes, they'll do your resume for free. They'll do coaching for you for free.
Yep.
So there's so much stuff that's out there. You have to be smart and invest in yourself and invest in the time to look for these organizations.
Yeah, no, amen to that. And that's one of the things that I like to do with my podcast, and why I'm teamed up with Act Now Education, is because we focus on those free educational resources that are available to our military community. And there's so many options out there. It's important for me and the entire Act Now team to get the message out there that, hey, you don't have to pay for this stuff. There's other people out there that are doing this that will help you out, that have equal quality. And I want to pivot to talk about Gavin DeBecker and Associates now, and the position that you're in, as well as the positions that you guys offer for military veterans. And can you talk to us a little bit about the executive protection position, some of the robust training that you go through, and the overall mission of the company?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, the executive protection role is very unique. I mean, you're talking about an individual whose primary responsibility is the preservation of someone's life. So that's huge. To say anything else would be an understatement. I mean, literally, their decision-making process is based on that critical responsibility. And so there's a lot that's involved there. What makes us different than other organizations is the fact that we have a very thorough process and a selection process in order to be a part of our firm. And so it starts off, obviously we have our application, you're going to do an interview with us. And then from there, we do a very thorough background. And so it's not like a background check, like you could say, like in the military, I got a secret clearance. I understand that. And the military hands out a lot of them, right? Ours is a little bit different. And so we are very, very thorough. Before we hand you the keys to a billionaire's home, we definitely need to make sure that there's no skeletons in the closet back there, or there are no other, ulterior motives that you're trying to do. And so because of that, we lose a lot of people. And we lose a lot more to individuals who are not honest. And so there really is no disqualifying factors with us. I would say the number one disqualifier is those individuals who are not honest. Again, we care more about who you are now than who you were before. But if you lie to us on an application or about your background, then odds are you're going to lie to the principal, you're going to lie to your team, and so on. And so I try to stress that to individuals when I speak with them about our firm. Another unique thing about us is, we have our own training. So we hire those who go through our training. Again, I'm not going to take away from other security companies. There's a lot of great ones that are out there. And those are all designated around collecting money for your GI Bill. That's what it is right there.
Right.
Yeah, ours is free. It's 12 days. Obviously, we can't teach you everything in 12 days, but we do have an OJT, or on-the-job training, that's 16 weeks afterwards. But you're going through essentially a 12-day selection course. And so you are getting the training. We're providing it for you. And at the same time, we're evaluating you. Everything you say, everything you do. And you as an applicant, you're evaluating us. You're making the decision of, okay, is GDBA who I want to be with? Are these the people that I want to surround myself and be a part of? So you get a choice as well. And then after that, it's more of a onboarding. So if you decide that, yes, this is what I want to do, then you accept offers, and then you actually you start to work. And our academy is very unique as well. We do a lot of different things in there. We have our behavioral awareness class. We do a very, very basic firearms course that meets the requirements for the state. But if you look at other EP courses or whatever, go on YouTube and look it up. Like, everything is focused around a gun. Because that weapon system is sexy. That weapon system, it sells. And so people, military, I'm guilty of it too. They see that and they're just like, oh yeah, that's where I want to be. I want to be a part of that, insert, security company name here. and it shows a video. I remember there's one on there. I don't know who it is. So it starts off with a little AC/DC, and you're just like, oh, this is awesome. You see a protective detail in the front of the car, and they're on a range. And then all of a sudden, it's as the beat starts to hit, they pull up with their M4s and they're shooting out the windows. And then another side view shows them, getting the principal out of the vehicle and putting him into a different vehicle. And you're just like, that is awesome. Like, oh my God, sign me up. I want to shoot out of a window, But at the end of the day, when you look at it, you're like, that's really not EP work. We're not shooting out of windows in America. I understand overseas, but not here. We're not a third world country. But a lot of individuals get taken into it. And they're just like, yeah, that's what I did for EP. No, you didn't. You just did something cool. Has nothing to do with it. We focus more on behavioral awareness, which is very important. And then we also focus on medical. The odds of treating a medical incident, whether it's, a client's child who needs a Band-Aid, you're going to deal with that more so than you are going for a gun. And so we kind of focus on that, and we tell people that's what it is. And then again, like I said, we'd have our 16 weeks OJT afterwards. And so you are learning more about the role. You're working with us, but you're in the command center, you're learning. And then we also have continued education as well, which separates us apart from any other organization, is that yearly training. Hey, and you got to do the PRT all over again. So we got to make sure that you're physically fit. And so those are all, kind of what separates a little bit from other organizations, not taken away from them. They're all great, but everyone sees, the EP role a little bit differently.
Yeah, your standards are incredible, and I understand that your reputation is number one. And when you're talking about the AC/DC video with the shooting out the windows and stuff, my background, like I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for around 11 years and up to the pandemic, and I trained at MMA gyms and things like that. So for me, like most people that are into combatives, MMA, and things like that, from my experience, are not the people that's looking for the fight. More times than not, you're trying to de-escalate situations, and you're trying to get away from having to get physical. And it's funny that you say that when it comes to the whole gun culture and being sexy and shooting out windows and stuff. And many times, in my experience, in my history, I've always, told people, hey, was that really necessary? Like, could you have approached this situation a little bit better and spoken to these folks without, pulling your badge, or without, announcing yourself in the way that you did? Could you just speak to them in a manner of like de-escalating the situation, or did you have to like take it to level 10 right off the bat? So I understand what you're saying with that, but sometimes people get hung up on those videos and the AC/DC music and the bullets and everything else. So it's that's one of the things that I really liked about Gavin DeBecker as well. But I want to stick to the military side of things, and I understand that Gavin DeBecker and Associates, they currently employ over 60% military veterans. So can you tell us what's one of the biggest hurdles facing veterans when making the transition into the civilian side, and is there anything specific to executive protection during that transition?
So with the biggest hurdles facing veterans, during the transition is they need to be proactive. I think we touched on that a little bit earlier. Is looking for those organizations they want to be a part of, and doing that early on in your transition. So not waiting until you're a month out and being like, oh, okay, what do I want to do? You should really be looking like a year out. And this way, as you get closer, you have the opportunity to apply to these organizations, get hired prior to getting out, which relieves stress on you, relieves stress on your family, your wife, knowing that you already have a job when you get out. And then also when it comes to your setting up your transportation, you already know where all your household goods are going to go to. And so that's the biggest hurdle, being proactive. The military is not going to be there when you get out. When you your last day, when you sign out, like that's it. They don't care about you anymore. You're just going to head out the base, out that front gate, and you're done. That's it. No one else is going to check on you or anything. So I would say that is the biggest hurdle. I encourage people to use their resources. Get on LinkedIn. There's certain things that are there, and certain companies, again, like will do the resumes for you. There's a company out here in California. I can't remember the name of them, but they give you a free suit to veterans who are applying for jobs, because they want to make sure that you're good to go. And so they also do coaching for interviews. So I encourage them to find out all these organizations that are free, and utilize them to help build your network, if you will, when you get out. And then as for the specifics for who we look for, we're like a melting pot. We take everyone. And what I mean by that, military-wise, there's certain things that you have in there, some of these like intangibles or whatever. I can't teach you to put an iron to your clothes, but the military does. I can't teach you to show up on time, but the military does. So the leadership stuff that's there, it's that's what we're looking for. So you don't have to have a background in it by any means, but being a veteran, it definitely sets you apart from others.
Right. It makes a lot of sense. And, at the end of the day, veterans, people in service, I shouldn't say veterans, people in service, especially the young adults in service, it's important to impress upon them to simply invest in yourself. Take advantage of the free education, like while you're on base. Go to the education center. I can't tell you how many times when I was a platoon leader, I would walk up to people in my formation and say, "Hey, what'd you do Friday night? Did you go out drinking, or did you go sign up for some classes at the education center?" And more times than not, they're like, "No, I hung out, didn't play video games," and I would constantly every week get on them like, "Hey, go to sign up for something, anything, just sign up for something and get this done, because you've got 4 years, in the military. Well, I plan on staying 20. Well, things happen. You don't know. You might, get medicaled out. You always got to invest in yourself, because you never know when life's going to throw you that curveball."
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even, and you bring up the good point about, investing in yourself for that education. It's, individuals, they see education as, I don't have to do this. Well, fine, don't do it. Hey, go do a CLEP. Go knock out a CLEP test really quick, and get some credits that way. Yeah. It's quicker as long as you're knowledgeable on the subject and you think that you can pass the test. Go do that.
Exactly. Find better use of your time.
Yep.
I don't want to be on CQ duty and do a walkthrough and have to write up. I'd rather see you in there studying or doing something else. That was one of my big things when I was active duty. I've watched several interviews with Gavin DeBecker over the years, and I read his book, The Gift of Fear, which discusses intuition. I noticed when I talk with combat veterans about traumatic events, many of the concepts can be applied to the situations that they were a part of. What are your thoughts on the concepts taught to combat veterans and their experiences?
So first thing I would say is if you haven't read the book, Gift of Fear, go read it. It's not a plug. I don't get any money out of it or anything like that, but it's just an amazing book about your intuition. I made my wife read it. I made my daughter read it. I encourage people to have their family members read it. It's there. Intuition is nothing more than, a little voice inside you. And you have two options. You can either feed, that voice and you can survive, or you can starve it and you can face the repercussions for it. Your intuition, it doesn't matter, how rich or poor you are. It doesn't matter what country you're from. Everyone has it. It's all about listening to that little voice that's inside you and then acting upon what it says, and that book it illustrates so many different scenarios that are in there. And you're just like, wow, okay, I get that. I've felt that before. Yep. I've been in a situation where don't go through that alley at night. Mm-hmm. It's not good. It's not good. Oh, well, it's a quicker way to get home. Don't do it, And so you have to make that decision. I think as veterans, they have it as well. I'm willing to bet that 99% of the veterans that are out there has a story about, man, if I only would have listened to my intuition on this, something was telling me not to do this. Don't go through that door. Don't do this. Don't do that. And they face the repercussions of it. And so it's, I don't know what else to say about intuition. Like, it's there. It's a great thing to have, provided you listen to it and you act upon it.
Yeah, I kind of see it as one of those things where your body is naturally equating the totality of the circumstance, taking everything into account of what you've experienced and if you've been there before, into how it's different right now, and warning you hey, be either highly vigilant or don't do that. And when I read that book and I was going back and thinking of the times where I was in those situations where things went bad, and I was starting to think about, like things were darker than normal. Things were more like way more quiet than usual. We didn't have the support that we needed at the time. Like things started adding up, and my intuition was already telling me, "Hey, like something's not right here." But we just kept going, and then sure enough, like we would hit an ambush, or we'd hit an IED, or something would happen, and that book in itself helped summarize, I guess, how you could simply avoid some of those situations, or be better prepared for the situations when things do go bad. And so,
Yeah, well, you can look at it as any interview of something that's happened in society that's bad, and you watch that interview and you listen to those individuals being interviewed that were there at the scene of the event or whatever. Yeah. And I'll give examples, broad ones, but people that are like, man, I knew that Tom was fired last week, and I saw him in the office today, walking through the door. I just kind of felt that was kind of weird, I just like, right. Huh. And say nothing about it, but they knew inside, like, oh, why is Tom here? Why is he here today? So it's very simple things like that. Or, why has that guy just been sitting outside in that car? That's kind of not right. It feels weird that he would be doing that. And people, they ignore it, and you'll hear it when you hear them on the interviews with the different news companies.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's a great book, and I don't get paid to plug it either, but it's definitely something that's opened my mind to understanding the perspectives of intuition and how we should pay more attention to our intuition as well. So many civilian businesses struggle with hiring veterans. How does Gavin DeBecker and Associates overcome this challenge of the translation of skills from veteran to civilian?
So every organization should have some sort of a veteran recruiter that's there. And when I say a veteran recruiter, someone who has probably been in the military more than 4 years, who has a better understanding of how it works and so on, the different leader levels, if you will, within there. And then someone who, for example, for me, I also did recruiting. I did recruiting for 4 years. And so I understand the concepts of recruiting and how to talk to individuals. And the biggest thing is I can relate to those individuals who are getting out, because those challenges they're facing, I've already faced. And I can share with them, what I learned of what to do and what not to do. And so I would say that organizations need to have that. Other organizations, they need to get into bases. And so I see that as the biggest struggle, is that there are a lot of great organizations that are out there, but they're not in the bases unless it's a job fair or something like that. I know for me, every Thursday, for the most part, minus today, I'm out at 29 Palms. And so I get to speak to Marines at the TRS, or Transition Readiness Service Briefs. And so I talk to them, and they get to see who I am. And so getting out there and doing different events, whether it's, you're volunteering your time or whatever it is, individuals need to get out there to military bases so they know who you are and so on. I think that's the biggest struggle there. Other thing is, like, they need to partner with organizations, other veterans organizations. I don't think that a lot of companies realize that there's, I want to say, a little over 200,000 veterans that get out, service members, that transition out. 200,000 per year. That's a huge pool of candidates that are looking for jobs, for the most part, looking for jobs, Even if you take half of those that say, I'm just going to go to college, and the other half are going to go to into the workforce, that's still over 100,000 people that are going into there. And so it's just, you got to talk to them early, establish that relationship early, not once they get out, not once they're home and then they're like, oh, okay, well, now I'm in Kansas and you're offering me this job that's in California, and now I got to move all my stuff again, and now I got to figure out stuff like that. And so that's the big one. Partnering with other organizations. I know that we partner with Wounded Warrior Project. We partner with Work for Warriors here in California. I mean, these are organizations that are dedicated to finding veterans jobs. And so why not partner with an organization who's doing the work for you? who constantly feeds you all these individuals who are interested in a career with you. And so I don't know that they do that. I don't know. I've only had 2 jobs in my life. One, the Army, and the second one is here at Gavin going on 10 years. So these are the things that, that I do know. Why would you put a lot of time, effort, and energy into something that doesn't work when you can use veteran organizations to help you? The other thing is, like, when veterans are getting out, they need to have a little bit of self-confidence in themselves and not think about, is this job going to be what I'm looking for or whatever. I think they do kind of struggle with that one. And I think that struggle comes with trying to relate their MOS into what the civilian job is. And I know that I had a hard time as well. It's difficult, especially if you're an infantryman. What do you do? Well, I shoot guns. That's what I'm really good at guns, But I'm looking at, doing something else that doesn't involve guns. So you got to transit. You got to figure out how you do that. And they have to look at the leadership, the classes that they learned in there, and that that makes them obviously more marketable to organizations. But having a veteran recruiter knows that already, and so it makes it easier for them. And you can kind of guide them when they fill out their resume. Hey, put this on here, and you'll be fine. Put that on there, and you'll be fine. So it's not for us. We're not specific to MOS, where others, they may be specific towards, an individual who's got a communications, who did that for, 8 years in the military, who's got all this, certifications and so on, who can come over and fill that job for them.
Yeah. So just to, before we close out the podcast, I just wanted to ask you this, because this is probably something that many veterans out there are feeling or might speak to. What do you feel like would be a good stepping off point for those who feel lost amongst all their options and paths during their transition out of the military?
I would say their stepping off point would be, first off, they should have a mentor.
Yes.
They should always have someone who they can go to and seek that guidance, because my guidance and what I say today may not be for everybody. But, the stepping off point would definitely be a mentor, someone because that mentor is not going to leave. Even if it's in the military or the civilian world, it's always someone that you can reach back out to and kind of say, hey, this is what I'm having. It's someone who may know more about that individual, who can give more specific guidance, more specific help in order to get them off. So, I encourage people, if you don't have a mentor, find one. It's not like people are going to be like, no, I don't want to be your mentor. It's not like that. People want to, be teach, coach, and mentor. And so I would say the first step, find that mentor, wherever it is, whoever it is, and seek their guides, because they're going to know more about you than anything that I can say on your first step.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And that's a great piece of advice, is mentorship and finding a mentor and getting, beside yourself and seeking the help for someone else who's already trailblazed and might be steps ahead of you already, or maybe out of the military now and can help you navigate better than what they did. That's huge. And if folks out there listening are interested in either applying for Gavin DeBecker and Associates or interested in connecting with you, what's the best methods for them to get a hold of you or to apply for Gavin DeBecker and Associates?
I'll start off with Gavin DeBecker first. So obviously we're on LinkedIn. You can go to Gavin DeBecker. We have our own website, which is GDBA.com. You can go in there and learn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, Twitter, all of those. A lot of information on our webpage in regards to us and who we are, the training and all of that. A lot of information. I encourage people to read that first before applying, to make sure that we are a good fit, or we are who you're looking for. As for me, I'm not a social butterfly, so I have a Facebook account only because when Facebook first came out, I thought it was a place where you upload your pictures and then it stores it there, get it off your SD card or whatever. So it's there. I never check it. I am on LinkedIn, so just regular Nick Duchene at LinkedIn. Always happy to help out veterans. I have individuals who direct message me and so on. I will always take the time to answer questions as best as I can, and I'm not an email guy, and I'm a phone person. And so if you direct message me, be prepared to, hey, is there a good number I can reach you at? Or, hey, here's my cell phone number. Feel free to call me. Because I think there's a lot of things that get lost in translation when you email or text back and forth. And so I prefer to, actually hear someone's voice so I can hear the inflection, when they're happy or when they're, they got a challenge that they may be facing.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'll make sure I put all that information down in the show notes as well. So if you're interested, check out the show notes. I'll have all the links down there. And is there anything that you'd like to say to just final out the show and summarize anything before we finish off the podcast today?
No, I mean, first and foremost, thank you for having me here. This is the very first podcast I've ever been invited on to do. And so it was definitely very interesting, motivational. I can actually say, long-time listener, first-time caller. But I appreciate that. And then for all the veterans and service members, one, thank you for everything that you've done. And two, I appreciate that people are still out there serving our country.
No, the honor is all mine, Nick. And to be honest with you, it was the relationship of at one point I actually had looked into Gavin DeBecker and Associates, and I read the book that Gavin DeBecker wrote, and then I found you on LinkedIn, and I thought, wow, like this is perfect. So I had to do my best to get you on the show and help spread the word, because I really think that you're part of a very, very great organization. So I want to thank you for taking your time out today and explaining a little bit about you, describing your experiences. So now people know, who is the military recruiting director for Gavin DeBecker, but then also what is Gavin DeBecker. So I appreciate you doing that today, and the honor is all mine. So I guess that's it. It's the end of the show, and just want to thank everyone out there for listening. And I appreciate Nick for giving us his time today. Stay tuned for more podcasts down the road. And I also want to mention too that all the things that mentioned earlier about the free suit, the resources and whatnot. Again, that's something that my team at Act Now Education also offers, as far as providing that information for free. We don't charge anything. It's going to be at the end of the post roll, and it's part of the pre roll of this show. I always talk about Act Now Education, and so a lot of those resources are out there. You just got to go out there and find them. And please check out Gavin DeBecker's website. Link up with Nick on LinkedIn and pick his brain for any questions if you're interested in getting into executive protection. So, as for Nick and myself, thank you for listening to the Morning Formation, and we're out.